Welcome, Know Me Now listeners, to another episode. And today we have Helen Svoboda joining us, and she is a double bassist, a singer, and a composer. So, thank you so much, Helen, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's nice to be featured. So, thank you.
You're welcome. And what's really cool about Helen is she's actually over in the Netherlands at the moment. So she's joining us all the way from there. The first one is, what is your favorite vegetable and why?
Carrot, definitely, because they're cheap, very cheap, good on the budget. And you can cook them in many different ways. You can put them with honey, you can put them with savory spices, you can mash them, you can fry them, you can boil them. It's the best.
Awesome. Thank you. And then after that one, what is the funniest thing that has happened to you recently?
2 days ago, I played a lockdown gig and it was with 4 people. And we just got invited, my partner and I have a duo, we got invited to play a house concert. We walked in, it was just like 4 middle-aged men. Yeah, I don't know, it was the strangest experience because I was emceeing to 4 people, but it was great.
Awesome. Thank you. If you had the opportunity to purchase a machine that produced $100 notes for the rest of your life, how much would you be willing to spend on it?
Oh, I guess if it was, if it was guaranteed to produce $100 notes for the rest of my life at an unlimited amount, right?
Yeah.
I guess I would just spend most of my savings on it, I guess, which isn't that much. But whatever I had, I would spend pretty good amount because I would be guaranteed to have this income. Wouldn't that be nice?
It would be very nice.
Yeah.
And the last one on our seat round for today. If you had to choose one song that would play every time you walked into a room for the rest of your life, what would it be?
It would definitely be Bon Iver, and it would be 22 Over Soon from their album 22 A Million. It's just so groovy. I just love them. Yeah.
Now that we've gone through the hot seat round, you've enjoyed that, we're going to move on to the actual interview where we'll talk about your music. So before we jump into a specific project, do you want to just give a brief overview of the sorts of things that you have worked on in the past?
Yeah, sure. So I am a double bassist predominantly, and also vocalist, composer. And yeah, a little bit about what I do musically is a whole range of different styles within the jazz genre, I would say. But I really don't believe in defining this genre as much. I believe in you can do so many things under this umbrella that we call jazz. So lots of my main projects involve different instrumentation, different styles for this reason. So my main one, which I guess we're talking about already, is vegetable bass at the moment. That's my solo project. Another very important one for me is Meat Shell, which is a duo with my partner, Andrew Saragossi. So he's an amazing tenor saxophonist, and I'm singing and playing bass in that as well. That's like, we call it experimental folk because it's not really just jazz. It's not really only folk. It's just this mixture of music that we both love. Another really important project of mine is the biology of plants. So this is like an alternative, ambient, environmentally inspired rock band with my brother on cello and myself on bass guitar, composition, synthesizer and drums. So this is really fun. And we actually won the Queensland Jazz Award of 2019, which was amazing because I didn't realize we were considered jazz, but this was great. And the other main one for me has been Sprout, which is my chamber trio with Sophie Min on piano, my brother on cello, and myself on double bass. And that's very much more classically inspired, minimalist inspired. So yeah, and many other various projects in between. Being under the jazz mediums, you're always doing new combinations with new people, and I can't list them all because there's just so many nice ones around. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Helen. And for those of you who recognize the name Sophie, Sophie actually was one of our interviews back in episode 2, so you can go and check hers out as well. And so Helen, you just also mentioned vegetable base. So one of the songs that we're going to play after we've spoken about it is called The Tree Tells. So could you tell us how you got that inspiration for the song and how it kind of developed into what it is now?
Yes. Yeah, this song, A Tree Tells, it just evolved very, very organically, because what happened was I was in Belgium, which is right next door to where I'm living in the Netherlands. And our friend Sebastian, he's specialized in music and movement, and he's a really great singer. So we went on to this workshop that he was leading in a forest. And we spent about 3 hours there around wild horses. And it was just super surreal. And there was this one exercise where we had to find a particular tree and actually connect with that tree. And I know that sounds really, really like hippie and, but I'm pretty into that and I loved it. And I heard this song after that workshop. I just got home and I composed it in one sitting. And it was also at the time of the Australian bushfires as well, which was really heartbreaking to read about every day, being so far away from home. So it was very much connected. It was like an anthem about, I'm basically talking to this tree and asking it, how are you feeling? And it's, you're telling me these things, you hold so much wisdom, you've outlived generations, you will outlive generations. And how do you feel about this changing world? And of course, in the most recent week, what's happening in the US, all of, what 2020 has brought us in terms of hardship and important activism as well. It seemed like the perfect choice to release this one, because it's just a commentary on the current state of the world as it is today, and what does the future hold for us in this world that we're inhabiting. So yes, it's quite a deep one.
Thank you. Yeah, and what I loved about it was you could really tell that, like, I had to listen to it before, and you could tell that your heart is really in it. And like, as you're singing and as you're playing, you can really, like, as you kind of build it and bring it back down, you're taking us on a journey through it. So I'm really excited everyone to hear the song as well, and stay tuned because you're going to hear it soon. So,
Thank you. I also should mention Brodie McAllister made the video, and he's a dear friend and really talented man. So I have him to thank for that video as well that you'll show.
I spoke with you today, standing in dismay. The world is not what it once was. You've seen it all unfold, the stories that you told, the wisdom that you hold. The world is not what it once was. The world is not what it once was. The world is not what it once was. The world is not what it once was.
It's the debut single off my album. So I'm releasing the full album through Made Now Music, which is a fantastic Brisbane label run by Brodie McAllister and Caleb College, both ex-con students as well. And yeah, they've just released, through that, the debut single, and the full album is later this month. So,
awesome. Thank you very much. And then we'll move on now, and we'll speak a little bit about maybe where you got the inspiration to begin music in the first place. So how did you, I guess, grow that passion to just play music for the rest of your life or create music?
For me, it was kind of never a choice. And in terms of, I would have always chosen it anyway. Like, it was definitely my choice to pursue it at an older age. But both of my parents are musicians, and 3 of my 4 grandparents were musicians, and my brother's a musician. So it's very much just runs in the family, but they're all classical musicians. So I grew up with lots of classical piano, classical flute training. And I got to this point at the end of high school where I got accepted into UQ on classical piano and into the Queensland Conservatorium on jazz bass. And I was just really conflicted because I just played bass guitar as this fun thing in school. And my dad, who's a guitarist, he was like, just audition as a backup, because piano is really competitive and, bass is too, but just have 2 auditions lined up so you can see what you do. And I was just, don't even know what happened, but this thing came over me where I was like, I don't want to do piano at all anymore. And it was just, it's different classical piano to me to what jazz piano is, because it's more just in general, I didn't want to do classical music because I felt that I wasn't in the right headspace to have that work ethic. Whereas in jazz, I was always kind of experimenting with things, or, I loved the idea of composing more as well. So I just chose this and didn't look back. I'm so happy I have the piano still to fall back on in terms of composing. And yeah, I love jazz piano. I just wasn't the right world for me anymore.
How did you end up making the decision to go to the Netherlands? Because that's very different to studying in Australia.
Yeah, that was an interesting time choosing where to move, because I was actually born in Finland.
Mm-hmm.
So I moved to Australia when I was 5. So I've had this European connection my whole life as well. And European passport makes things very good too.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, my boyfriend and I were both looking for a place where we could both study a master's in jazz, because there's something really nice about moving overseas for studies, for your second degree, because Brisbane's great, but I'd already studied 1 degree there, and I just wanted to move outside of Australia for the second one to absorb lots of the international, European style of bass playing particularly. And we're really drawn to Cologne in Germany as a city of improvised music. And it's a thriving music scene there for all of this weird music that we play. But it was very hard to get in there because we don't speak German, and they take only 2 people into the entire school for the master's program. So instead of trying there, we actually auditioned in Maastricht, which is an hour from Cologne. We could do that from Skype audition, and we both got in and could still take half of our lessons externally in Cologne anyway. So it's been this amazing experience of, moving to a place and being able to learn from, teachers that we've requested, as well as the teachers in the institutions. And learning between 2 different countries when you're only an hour away is quite surreal from Australia, where you drive an hour and you're still in the same city, or you're at a beach. Yeah. So it was kind of convenience and general location of where we wanted to go. And it was very much about the music that's coming out of this part of Europe that we were really interested in.
So just one other question I had about your song that was just released. In this song, you were both playing the bass while singing. This must be a difficult skill to master, especially for those who maybe only play one instrument. How did you manage to actually do this?
Yeah, this took me a long time to be confident with, actually, because I've always been interested in singing, but it's different when you just do it or when you're learning it as well. I think in terms of, being surrounded by amazing singers in what I do every day, it's this thing that took me a long time to really pursue. And during my time in the Netherlands, I've been having singing lessons, which has been amazing. And it's just boosted so many creative options in my brain. I've got these 2 things I can use together now. And I guess a large part of that song, and also of Vegetable Bass as a project in the album, my studies as well have been focused on the combination of overtones on the double bass, so harmonics, particularly bowed harmonics, as in the treetels you can hear, and the combination of those with the female voice, because it's a very similar, if not identical, range. And if you're singing in unison with a bowed harmonic on the bass, it has this really ethereal timbre attached to it. So I've been really experimenting with that and seeing how can I use the voice not only as like a traditional, lyrical side, which is very much in the treetels, but in some of my other music, it's very much a different layer to the bass. So it's kind of accentuating particular sounds on the bass. And I think, yeah, it's just taken a long time of trial and error to see what works and what doesn't, and lots of practice with each instrument separately. So lots of only vocal practice and only bass practice, and becoming comfortable just finding different sounds within both instruments and combining it quite intuitively, because I think, yeah, you'll always know in your body if you like what it sounds like. You know, if you do something, you're experimenting. For me, it was just a process of, you know, oh wow, like that sounded good. I like that sound. Let's record that sound, or let's put it into a composition straight away. To just kind of build your vocabulary of uses on that. So yeah, and I guess this album has really been a product of my research that I was here doing on my master's. It was, how do I combine these two things into something very united and also conflicting at times. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah, well, Sophie, in her interview, she talked about how she loves composing as well, and how improvising is really just composing in real time. So from thinking along that lines, how would you say your approach to improvising is then, and how it relates to your own compositions?
Yeah, I think the two of those are super related, as Sophie said as well. It's, for me, a really important thing has been, you know, recording improvising. So, you know, improvising, not so much during this lockdown, I have to admit, I haven't been as inspired. But in general, I would record lots of improvisations in my practice. If I heard something that I liked, I would actually put it into a composition, or vice versa. So sometimes you'll compose, and particularly if you're composing using new unfamiliar techniques or unfamiliar harmony, unfamiliar sounds, that will always lead back to your improvising, where you'll pull certain parts of this into your spontaneous sound as well, because they are so connected, these two things. But it's just, one of them is in real time and one of them is premeditated in a way. So I think in jazz as well, I think the type of improvising I really love is if someone just gives me a melody and nothing else, because I think some of the most amazing results in my own music and others' music is that you have this really simple motive and that's all you get. So you're forced to bring your own identity into it. And it is this beautiful combination of spontaneous with existing material as well.
And then with studying in the Netherlands, I'm sure you've had some amazing people that you've worked with and been guided by and learnt from. Could you share maybe some of your favorite learning experiences and some of the opportunities you've had while being over where you are now?
Definitely. I think one thing, as I said earlier, is that being able to choose my teachers outside of Maastricht has been really valuable. So I had all of these bass players I was just aspiring to for years, all based in Cologne. So it's funny, I've been learning off Matthias Nowak, Robert Landferman, Dieter Manderscheid, Sebastian Grams, John Goldsby, all of which are based in Cologne, but half of them teach here in Maastricht, half of them teach in Cologne. And that's been amazing in itself, because actually one of them, Sebastian Grams, later invited me on his tour as a second bassist just recently, which was like a really amazing project called Hard-Boiled Wonderland. That would be something really great that's come out of this European trip, where it was actually like political activism in music. So I was invited to represent Australia basically, and I had lots to say in my composing about what's been happening this year, particularly. So that was really great. And also there are so many competitions here, which has been really bizarre because Australia isn't in that competition culture as much. And I'm not really a fan of competitions at all, but it's been great here just to have that as a way of, first of all, winning some money to record projects, and also as something forcing you to think outside the box. So with Mitchell, my duo with Andrew, we won the award for innovation in music in Maastricht, which was basically, we had to craft this immersive theatre performance around our music. So that was really cool. I wouldn't have partaken in those kind of, cross-disciplinary projects had I not had this award as a part of it, and there's been Maastricht Jazz Awards. We won that this year as well. And it also gives you a really good chance to perform, in really nice venues. And there's just lots of opportunities like that around. And other than that, it's just been in the Netherlands, just meeting lots of new friends, lots of people, having the ability to tour not only the Netherlands, but in Germany and in Belgium, both of which are just next door. So, definitely a good experience of, packed lots into 2 years. But very valuable.
You've mentioned a number of times your duo with your partner. Do you want to tell us maybe a little bit about that and some of the benefits of being able to play music with your partner?
For sure. Yes, as I mentioned, I guess that's my other main project for sure. Because you can't play solo all the time, it gets lonely. Meet Shell is our duo that we formed when we moved here, actually. And like I said, it's very much under the experimental folk realm. So we really play around with the roles of our instruments. I'm not really always a bass player. I'm sometimes a melodic player, singing and using these overtones that I do my solo stuff as well. He's very much doing very many extended techniques on the tenor saxophone. So lots of circular breathing, which is continuous sound, never stops. Lots of like slap tongue, so very like percussive techniques, multiphonics. So we get this very gritty sound sometimes that's really quite uncomfortable, and sometimes we get sounds that are really beautifully blended. And I think in general, duo playing with us both has really pushed our instrumental skills to like the next level, because you're only with two people and you're forced to really make the most of this sound and make the sound as full as you possibly can. So we just recorded our second album here as well now, which will be released, we don't know, after COVID, I guess, or next year as well. So that's really exciting. And it is intense making music with your partner, for sure, because you know them very well. And when you live with them in one room and you rehearse in that same room, it's been a process, definitely, to figure out how do we do this together, because it's not easy, I can tell you that. But it's very rewarding when you get something right and you're on the same page. It's really good. So I am lucky.
Moving on, say we're past COVID time, you're back in Australia, because I hear that you're planning on coming back to Australia next year, is it?
I think it's just a waiting game at the moment to see when can we return and when does it make sense. But I imagine it'll be between, later half of this year to early next year.
So thank you so much, Helen, for joining us today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and you shared some gems of knowledge. And for anyone who's thinking about maybe traveling overseas and doing some study in some place besides America, where a lot of people go, Helen is a great person to learn some of her wisdom from and get some advice from as well. So I hope you've gotten a lot out of it. And thank you so much, Helen, for joining us, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. So thank you.
You've seen it all unfold, the stories that you told,